Thanks for staying with us. So fathers have a vital responsibility to teach their sons how to be strong, responsible men as they grow. According to a report, the absence of a father, or at least a positive father figure in a young man's life, he struggles to learn what it means to become a responsible man and citizen and father to his own children. Joining us to shed more light on this, as always, is our own very catalyst, Lanre Olusola. Welcome to the show. We'd like to have you on the show times like this.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and we like that both of you are wearing black.
Yeah, we're...
Father. So the coach
we are both wearing green.
Yes, now, so we are good.
We are like Nigerian flag, green, white, green.
Right. So we want to talk about fathers today, and it's so important because, I mean, we are mothers, and we understand the role a mother plays in the lives of a child. But a father figure these days is becoming an issue because many people are confidently saying, you know, I am a mother and a father to my child. I'm all he needs. The father is a douchebag, and I'm ready to just, he's not in his life, and I'm good enough to be a mother and father to this child. My question, therefore, to you is there, can we have, how do we raise responsible men to take responsibility for their sons?
Wow, it's a big issue.
It's very broad, right?
We need to unpack it. First of all, you know, let's look at society today. So, you know, if you read the newspapers, right, you would hear about terrorism, kidnapping, stealing, arson, all manners of dysfunctionality and problems in society. But let's look at it. Who is committing those crimes? Women or men?
Mostly men.
It's the men. Now, if this is what is happening, then we need to ask ourselves why. The reason why is because they're dysfunctional. Why are they dysfunctional? They were nurtured in a dysfunctional home by dysfunctional parents or absent parents. And that's why this topic is so critical and so important. So the mothers, God bless them. The fathers have been absent. They've needed to try and do everything that they can do. So we celebrate all the women that have stepped up. But it's not enough. Fathers need to wake up to their responsibilities. In fact, being a father is not just about, you know, procreation. It's not just about sowing those your wild oats. It's about, you know, nurturing your son to become, you know, a responsible member of society. It is nurturing your son to know that he's here for a purpose and to live that purpose and to fulfill that purpose. It is ensuring that your son becomes better than you.
Right.
It is ensuring that your son adds value to humanity. Now, that is your number one purpose. And I know a lot of people are looking for purpose everywhere.
Yeah, but you see, when you yourself as a person, you were not raised right.
Yeah.
You're raised in a society that is like you're in charge. You are the Lord and Master. So how do you give what you don't have? How do you raise a child to be responsible, even when you didn't get that training as a child? I
mean, if we keep looking at it from this perspective, right, we will continue to recycle the problems.
Right.
And so we need to get to a point where we, men, take responsibility. Yes, I was raised in a pseudo-dysfunctional home. My father died when I was 2 years old. My mother raised me solely. But I've taken the responsibility, right, to be a responsible member of society, to add value to society. This is our responsibility. You know, none of us can determine where we're coming from. But we can surely, right, design and define our future. And so it is time for us to have these serious conversations and to wake up to the reality of today. 21st century is a tough dispensation to live in.
Raise children.
To live in, to raise children, to exist in. Look at what's happened in the last 18 months. COVID, the pandemic. Do you know the emotional, mental, and psychological impact and trauma that it's created?
I mean, I like
what happens in a case where a father isn't present for whatever circumstance, and a mother is trying to take up the role of, taking care of this young man? How do you advise that mother to proceed? What sort of help does she need to raise a boy?
All right, so they say that it takes a village, right, to raise a child.
Right.
And that's why, we must lean on a few concepts. One, the concept of a godfather. Choose your child or your son's godfather wisely. You would have known from when you were dating that this man is going to be irresponsible. You can see it from his family background. You can see it from him. You can see it from the way he relates with his siblings, especially younger siblings, right? You can see it from the way he relates with younger boys, right, around him. You can see it. You can see the red flags. And so if you decide to go ahead with that, then you have to choose the godfather right. The godfather has to be a man that is a role model. He has to be a man that has taken responsibility. He has to be a man that finds joy and pleasure in nurturing the next generation of men and boys. So first is the godfather. And not just choosing the godfather. It is ensuring that the godfather has a very, very critical role and plays a very critical role in the life of that child, number one. Number two, you have male siblings. You have to give the responsibility.
One of them.
To your own male siblings, your brothers. You have uncles. Also, you have to try as much as possible, to develop a relationship with your son's male teachers. Very, very important. You have to be involved in choosing his friends. Now, all of this is ensuring that you create a system around this boy, such that left, right, center, forward is bombarded by the right kinds of people.
Role models.
And we know that our environment influences our behavior. Our behavior influences our abilities and our capabilities and everything we do in life. Now, our environment and our behaviors, right, and what we've learned from our nurturing influences our beliefs and our values and our identity. By implication, environment, behavior, beliefs and values, identity influence our outcomes in life.
Right. Let me go on a break. There's a lot to break down. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're still discussing fatherhood, and this is really more about fathers to their sons. And we have with us our catalyst, Lanre Olusola. Waiki had a question before the break. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, do you think that fathers not being there are really to blame for, like, the bandits? I call them terrorists, but the so-called bandits, the kidnappers, or they're just inherently bad people? Or it's just that they have been failed by government. Now, if we're going to go to that, then you see our governments are mostly men. Our government people are mostly men. So that means they too are failures because they are fathers of the nation. So me, I'm going to go to...
definitely go to the government.
I will go to the government because we have been ruled mostly by men.
Right.
It's a vicious cycle, YK. I always like to go back to fundamental first principles of foundational issues. The men in our government came from a family. Now, let's just do a comparative analysis. let's take maybe Wole Soyinka, and let's take a match for Wole Soyinka, a man in government, and let's see the pedigree. Let's see the background. Let's see the influence of the fathers and the mothers and the families, and let's see how they have turned out. You know, family is the bedrock of society. So we're only seeing in government, right, the products of the families. And so I know that government has a role to play, but we can't control what government does. What we do have control over is ourselves and what happens in our families. And so if we come back to the topic, you know, the role of fathers, right, in their sons is the fathers have to be role models. In fact, they have to live the life that they expect their children to live, because the children eventually become their fathers.
Yeah.
So your son is your mirror. So whatever you are seeing, right, in your son, check yourself.
Check yourself.
So whatever we're seeing in our leaders, right, we need to go and check their
Now,
fathers.
Larry, there's this new saying around town saying, oh, let the boy cry. You know, let him express his emotions. You know, let him just be, we're tired of having this macho. But are we not creating sissies? Are we not creating men that are not going to be in charge? Because there's always that feeling of when a woman feels like, yes, my man is in control. He understands. He's a leader here. But people now start feeling that by allowing them express themselves and be emotionally connected with their inner self, it's going to make them less of a man. Could you help me understand that better?
It's a big topic. All right. So let me get us to understand how powerful emotions are. You cannot make a decision without an emotion. Every decision you make is influenced by an emotion.
Okay.
And the outcomes of our lives or the actions we take is a function of every decision we make. So if our outcomes are negative, then our decisions were negative, and by implication, our emotions were negative. So if we teach men only to focus or express positive emotion, then they are not complete, because that's not life. The reality of life is ups and downs, good and bad, right? Negative and positive. Life is about polarity. That's one of the 12 universal laws of the universe. The law of polarity. There will always be the opposite of everything. And it's always yin and yang. So we need to get our boys to understand the law of sexes. When I talk about sexes, is you are male and female. I am male and female. The left side of my body is filled with female energy. The right side of my body is filled with male energy, which means that female emotions, male emotions. The male emotion is what you have described. It's a driver, you know, he has positive energy. He's vibrant. He should be resilient. He should be in control. The female energy is receptive, is calm, is tranquil, is loving, is sensitive. We need both. And the reason why we need to nurture them for both, right, is for them to find harmony. You must cry because it's an emotion. You must laugh because it's an expression. Crying is an expression of an emotion. Laughing is an expression of an emotion, right? Pain is an expression of certain emotions.
Yay,
right?
that's pain.
You know, if you suppress it, its energy, it cannot be suppressed for too long, right? It will be converted to another form, which will be toxic, which will bring disease and destruction. Internal and external. So we must teach them to embrace and express the right way. We must teach them to find harmony between their female energy and their male energy, between their female emotions and their male emotions, between their femaleness and their maleness, right? What we want is harmony. Now, it is also important that women understand this because women are being taught now, based on a lot of women's liberation, to be masculine. And they are suppressing their femininity.
Hey, I know somebody like that.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we are internally, right, recoding and killing ourselves. We are externally infecting society. So the men are all men and all male energy. The women are all men and male energy.
And we are all
What happens to the female energy?
Where's the mother? Where's the nurturer? And there is a nurturer in the man, and there is a nurturer in the woman. And so we need to get back to basics, where it's all about harmony. Look, there has to be, for this world to find peace, harmony, happiness, and joy, we need peace, harmony, internal.
Hey,
That's okay.
Can I?
I wanted to digest it
Yes,
first.
I am worried that a lot of people do not understand their emotions. They are not emotionally aware. So you're upset about something, you don't know what is causing the anger because we have not been taught to go inwards and find the root cause of that anger. So you just express it everywhere. I am worried that those are the crop of parents who are raising children. How do we begin as parents to learn, first of all these things you're saying because you can't give what you don't have.
You know, I think our tradition, our culture, our religions are to blame. Because, you know, look at when COVID came and say you can't catch a black man. Look at where we are now with COVID. So emotions, depression, not for black people. Do you know that depression is now the world's second killer? By 2030, the WHO says that depression will be the world's #1 killer. Depression is an emotion. So an emotion will be the world's #1 killer. We had better begin to take note of what she's saying, emotional intelligence. Now, research has now proven that 85% of all success in all dimensions of life is dependent on how emotionally intelligent you are, which leaves 15% to your IQ and your technical skills. So why are people struggling? A lack of emotional intelligence. And one of the critical elements of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, your ability to understand your strengths and your weaknesses, right? And how your strengths and your weaknesses affect and infect people around you. And your ability to self-regulate in the moment, not after. So self-awareness is not about knowing that, yes, he annoyed me and I shouted at him. No, it's in that moment to know what will trigger you, in that moment to know how it feels, and in that moment to be able to regulate yourself such that your decisions are right, your words are right, your reactions are right. Now, what's the implication of that? Now, emotions are also expressed by the influence of our biochemicals or neurotransmitters or hormones. If you keep releasing, what we call, those negative, deadly emotions, you will be releasing a lot of neurotransmitters that in themselves will kill you and turn to toxins like adrenaline, cortisol. They begin to have adverse effect on your biology.
Physical body, you mean?
Yes.
There's a father watching this program right now, and he has a teenage son. I mean, that he doesn't want that child to be like him. Maybe the child is just like 11 years old. He knows he has anger issues. He knows he has bad behavior, and he's like, listen, I really don't want my child to end up like me. What can that father do?
I don't want my child to end up like me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The first thing is you have to accept that you have a problem. 1. And get help. 2. And 3, sit with your son. So, son, this is who I am. This is how I've turned out. And this is why I've turned out this way. And I'm getting help. These are the consequences in my life. Use your failure. Use your mistake. Use the way you are to teach him how not to be.
How not to be.
Let him know you are getting help, right? And change. Once your son sees that you are moving from the North Pole, extreme negativity, and you are gravitating towards positivity, what better lessons than to live it and be it?
This emotion, there is an emotion that I wanted to ask you about that most of us have been through as kids. Yeah! When your mom is calling you, why you go spelling? What kind of emotion is that? And how is that a negative emotion or a positive emotion?
Your mother calls you.
You know,
And
and your mother asks you to do something, or your father asks you. You can't show him or her that emotion. So you will dance.
And grumble.
Bad dance. In one corner there. And you will stamp your feet, you know. I don't stamp, my mic will fall down. So you just
get angry and then go in front of him and now pretend.
Sometimes your father will catch you and give you a hot slap for that dance that you did. What kind of emotion is that? And is that an emotion or is
it healthy?
Is it healthy? Eh? Thank you.
So it's it is frustration, it is irritation, it is powerlessness, it is helplessness. Those are the emotions, and they express themselves in different ways. Some repress it, some express it, right? Whichever way, and it depends on the frequency that affects you. And so the question that you have to ask yourself is this, right? Does my father have a right to call me and to send me on errands? Yes, they do. The parent needs to also think, am I provoking my child? Because it is written, do not, provoke your children to wrath, right? So there needs to be a balance between both entities, parents and children. Children need to, especially these millennials.
Yeah. They are no more millennials. They are now
Generation Alpha.
No, Generation Alpha. Z is the present ones that we are seeing up and down now.
Z. Yeah.
Alpha,
the
0 to 10.
ones just growing.
Yeah.
Now, talking about, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to go to the issue of sexual relations when it comes to boys. Girls are given a lot of responsibility. They start teaching them on time how not to allow a boy touch you, how to comport yourself, how to clean up yourself, and all of that. But boys are basically allowed to find their feet. When they bring home some bad habits, and he's a boy, he will get out of it. He will grow. The society will train him. And some fathers are actually happy when their sons come home with girls and
condoms,
tell them about or they see their escapades. They are excited. He's becoming a man. How do we begin to break those gender stereotypes?
Also, I think when we are able to see the consequences of a lot of those things, then we will begin to think differently. So if we looked at society today, especially normalcy, right, when it comes to intimate relationships and marriages, you will find out that 1 in 2 first-time marriages is failing, ending up in divorce. 1 in 2, that's 50%, right? 63% of second-time marriages is ending up in divorce. 72% of third-time marriages is ending up in divorce. So that tells us that there's something wrong. Now, if we realize that there's something wrong, then we need to go back to the basic and say, okay, what is the example that we're showing? And how are we nurturing our children? So let me come back to your question with the boys, right? Interestingly, your sexual initiation determines how you will be with the opposite sex in your latter years. So how are boys sexually initiated? They are house girls, they are aunties, so boys were abused. A lot of boys were abused.
And it's not recorded.
It's not talked about, it's not recorded. We are only focusing on the women, right? And when these boys are sexually molested, sexually abused, and up until their teenage years, 18, 19, right? From when they were 5, 6 years old, right? You will find out that, traditional culture keeps quiet, correct? Do you think the father doesn't know what's going on with the house girl? They know. They know. But yeah, correct. Now, they can't have that kind of conversation with their sons. 1, 2, they leave their sons to go and learn from outside. So a lot of young boys also right? Get up to no good with prostitutes, you know.
Yeah.
That's what young boys in secondary school do. So, you know, they are nurturing themselves and programming themselves for promiscuity and multiple partners.
So how could they
Wow.
have fixed that early?
The father needs to be having...
How does the father teach a boy how to have sex?
No, you teach him about you. Yeah, you have to have conversations with your son.
It's not just the girls.
It's not just, you have to have serious conversations with your son, right? And your son needs to be open with you to say, this auntie abused me. This, you know, and, you know, it's not something you accept. You know, it's something you've got to deal with. You've got to protect your children. I mean, why should a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old be having sex with an 18-year-old, 19-year-old? Why? How is that okay?
You know,
how would that shape his thinking, right? And his behavior in his latter
the
years?
father, right,
It's
I'll come to you. So
amazing.
a father, you're saying that a father who's watching right now should be discussing these issues of sex with their son.
Of course, the father has to be present first, not absent.
But some fathers just want to keep quiet. They just don't want
They
to talk.
don't know how.
You see, the thing is-
They are not a father.
No, but you see, the thing is, the thing you're missing, Nari, is that a lot of these fathers too were sexually abused, because I know a lot of boys who their initiation to sex was with their house girls. A lot of men.
9 out of 10. 9
So-
out of 10.
Nobody has told them that that was wrong, so they don't even know. So if they hear that their own son too is being, they may not react, or they may not stop, you know, because what they have to do is stop the child.
They say
I'm
he'll get over
experiencing
it.
that, yeah.
Let's go on
You
a
know,
break.
but-
Yeah,
okay,
let's go on. When we come back, I'd like you to address this. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
All right, thanks for staying with us. We still have Lanre Olusola. You're going to respond to something YK
Yeah.
said earlier about
Fathers don't know the difference because they too.
Yeah.
We're
being
abused.
So you know, that's why we're having these conversations. I mean, where will you be hearing about this? What TV? In our own days. Do you understand? So, you know, we're in the age of knowledge, revelation, information. And, you know, we need to unlearn and relearn. And that's why we're having these conversations. And you know, that's why I celebrate your view. You know, you're always having life-transforming conversations. And I hope that the viewers out there are listening and they are learning.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we cannot solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created it. We must elevate to a higher level of thinking to solve a problem. So, you know, YK said that, yeah, the fathers don't know. The fathers experienced it, right? The more reason why they should wake up to the reality of how it has affected their marriages, how it has affected their relationships, how it has affected them and is affecting them today, such that they are able to protect their sons from going through it. It's an epidemic. 9 out of men, right, were initiated either by their house girls, their older cousins, or a prostitute.
So let me ask you this. If we talk about having very deep conversations with boys, what would be more like the content of this conversation? So I know that boys are not taught how to express when that feeling, that urge comes upon them. They don't know how to express. They are not taught how to. Should that be like the focus of that conversation? So let me give you an example. When we had a lot of rape stories coming up, they just would explain to you that they felt like doing it and they just met the available girl and decided to rape that girl. So how do we begin to teach them that it's okay, it's normal to have these feelings? How do you now use the feelings that you, how do you control the feelings?
How do you rechannel that
how do you,
feeling?
exactly, to something more? How do you just have the conversation?
I think the first thing is to create an enabling environment for open and honest conversation, right? So the question that we will ask first is, does the father and the son have that kind of a relationship?
First of all.
That the son can come and say, Daddy, this is how I'm feeling. Who will he go to? Mommy.
Likely.
Not daddy, because what daddy is
Yeah.
the
Macho.
hard guy, is
Yeah.
the macho guy, you know, talking about, oh yeah, let men be, Men.
Yeah.
Men in control. You don't have that kind of conversation with daddy. Daddy has to be approachable. That's the feminine side of daddy. That's the nurturing side of daddy. That's the accommodating side of daddy. That's the sensitive side of daddy. That's the listening side of daddy. Right? That's the side of daddy that can connect with the son at a deep level. Right? That's the side of daddy that, daddy too will know that, this is my son. The way that he's behaving, this was how I was behaving when I was 9. Come, son, what's going on with you? When I was your age, I used to.
Yeah.
A lot of fathers don't even want to talk about their mistakes and their failures. And you can use that to teach your son so much more. I say to people that failure and mistakes, challenges and tribulations teach you much more than your successes. So be comfortable to talk about your failures. Comfortable to talk about your challenges, your mistakes. But most importantly, teach them from it. Teach them what not to do.
Right.
Teach them the consequences of
Your actions.
following you or your own mistakes.
Okay, so there's another angle I'd like us to talk about, because we have reports of which young teenagers are committing suicide. Aside from this issue of sexuality, there are also pressures from their fathers. They must pass this exam. You must get to Harvard. You must pass this SATs. And they feel these immense pressure from family to achieve. Or even if you finish school, there's immense pressure to bring money home, to take care of the family. And sometimes they just give up. They just don't know. So how do we help our children, to understand how to manage and not get suicidal?
Before you go there, because there's a tube here that's saying you should start to talk to boys at 13 about sexuality. I think it's earlier.
That's too late.
It's too late. Yeah. So I just wanted to, because people believe
that's too late.
An age where you should start to talk about.
From age 3.
Yeah.
From age 3?
When they can understand what they are.
And I know I've told them the normal one. I don't think my husband has never had a conversation with them, but I've done the normal. They already know the body parts. Know not to touch this.
Birds and bees.
That's what they tell the girls. It's birds and bees.
No, you tell them what organ.
We tell them exactly the name.
The names of the
does not touch.
When you are a girl, your mother, they tell your mommy to go and discuss the birds and the bees.
Okay, got you. All right. All right, so we'll talk about suicidal.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that, I was saying that young teenagers they feel the exams, they feel that pressure from home. How do we help young boys not to get suicidal?
Yeah, the issue with suicide today is associated with a lack of emotional resilience, right? A sense of despondency, a sense of powerlessness and helplessness and hopelessness. Not just pressure, right? Now the question is this: what pushes a child to the point where the decision to take his life is better than a decision to stay alive, right? It's not an issue of just pressure. It's despondency, helplessness, hopelessness, and powerlessness. And so we need to look at that entire system that child is growing up in. And we need to identify, what is it? It can't just be pass your exam. It can't just be you have to be the best in your academics. There's a lot more. And we need to own that and take responsibility for that, right? No child that is given love, no child that is shown love, no child that their self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence is developed, right? No child that you often hug, that you love, that you sit with, that you have conversations with. No child that you go out with, that you spend quality time with, that you nurture appropriately. No child that grows up in a very functional environment, right? Don't let me say no. Very few of them will get to that point, right? Before they even get to that point, you would have observed, because you would have been with them at the dinner table. They would have been open and having conversations with you. Before a child gets to that point, he must have been withdrawn for a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks.
You would have noticed.
You would have noticed that he is not taking care of himself. He is incoherent. He's not interested in anything anymore. He does not take a bath. He doesn't want to get out of bed. His eating habits, his sleeping habits. He's not, pushing and driving, in school. They're complaining about behavioral issues in school. You would have consistently, over a period of 3 to 4 weeks, seen
a change.
Yeah,
there's
deliberate
something
parents.
wrong. Because suicide, right, 90 to 95% of all suicide cases, right, is the result of depression. So what is it that is causing that young child to be depressed?
Okay, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.